relentless life is the only life worth living.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Relentless Life. I'm your host, Relentless Jake, and this is podcast number 3, and it is canceling Facebook. I'm expecting a lot of opinions on this. There's a lot of things I want to share about it, and the pros. I don't know of any cons right now. There might be some, but I haven't felt it, and I certainly don't miss it. And we'll talk about that. But beforehand, let's just kind of get into the beginning once again. Thanks for being a part of the podcast. I appreciate you, liking and sharing, you commenting and downloading the podcast. That helps my rank. If you want, you can give me 5 stars on if you're part of Apple Podcast. If you don't think it's worth 5 stars, and if you think it's worth like 4.5, I don't know, maybe round up and give me 5 stars. If you think it's worth 3, round up and give me five stars because that helps me feel better. No, it's whatever. I appreciate it. It's been fun. I'm enjoying it, and I look forward to doing these every week. And I'm getting into a point where I'll finally start to get ahead. And I have some guests that are going to be coming on, and I'm very excited about those. I've been starting to edit some of the older ones that I did in the past, and now I'm excited to see what's going to come forward and like some of the new things that are coming forward. People that I've talked to. We have some great discussions, and some things that I think some of you are going to like hearing, and some things you may not like hearing. And you can tune it out and shut it off, slam your phone up against the wall, or you can listen to it and just kind of have an open mind. That's kind of what podcasting is all about. It's not about so many characters that you're able to twat your tweets or whatever it is. What's the past tense of whatever it is on Twitter, twatter, whatever. I'm making fun of it because to me it's irrelevant. You get so much so much damage you can do in a short thing, and then it's like people read into it. And it's short communication. I just think it's reckless. I think Twitter is terrible. Twitter cancels people. I think we should cancel Twitter. I think Twitter is the problem. I don't think it's people. It's like, it's one of those things where, you blame the person, or do you blame the tool that gives it to you? Maybe that makes me a hypocrite because I look at the same way with guns. And if guns get in the wrong hands, it becomes reckless. But it's keep the gun out of the person that can't control it. And I certainly believe in that. It's not that the gun is a bad tool, not in my opinion. It has its purpose. Of course, the American would say that the guns have the purpose, but it's not. I don't know what I'm talking about right now. All right. Bear with me because I am very lucky to just be behind this microphone right now and have the energy to do it. If you would have talked to me 52 hours ago, I didn't have the energy to stand up, and I deserved it. It's funny because if you want to go back to the irony of my very first podcast talking about COVID, and I think I mentioned something about how my immune system felt ironclad and I felt like I can walk through fire, and like I just felt great. And that's true. And then, of course, no sooner did that podcast release, what happened? I got nailed with a very terrible case of the flu. It wasn't COVID. I got tested again, and it was just a bad case of the flu. Probably the worst case of the flu I've ever had. I've constantly bragged about not getting the flu shot. Now I'm reconsidering because I don't want to have to go through that again. And it's interesting because I'm doing an intermittent fasting of 20 hours off and then 4-hour window of where I can eat. So it essentially gives you, like, at the end of the night, it gives me an opportunity to basically have calories. And, usually it gives me more opening of like being able to eat more. But it really has turned into like me kind of enjoying food more as a result. But I'll talk about that in probably future podcasts. That's not really the point. I guess the point is doing that intermittent fasting is probably why the flu was so rough on me by the end of the day, because I was getting to that point where I was supposed to be. It was around that time where eating was coming up. And normally when I get to that point where it's like, hey, I got my 4 hours coming up, I get extremely hungry and food is wonderful and it's a great 4 hours and then, it's good. I was getting close to that 4 hours, and I wasn't feeling hungry at all. And I was like, that's weird. But I was on the plane, and I was headed to Chicago. And by the way, the week was pretty easy. I didn't – it's not like I had a hard travel week. I was only to 2 different places. I was in Phoenix. I flew from Phoenix after 3 days. I went to St. Louis. And then St. Louis back to Chicago. I've had a lot worse travel schedule, within a week's period. Sometimes I was at 4, 5, 6 different states. This week was simple. But as I was landing, I realized maybe I'm just like tired, or maybe there was a lot of turbulence, and sometimes that affects me, but it normally doesn't. And I thought, well, I'm in a smaller aircraft this time. Maybe my stomach's just not, excited about this. I don't know. I landed, and when I landed, one thing led to another, as a lazy writer would say, because they didn't want to be as descriptive as they could have been. And before you knew it, when I got to my hotel, I was so dehydrated after being sick numerous times that I basically passed out on the bathroom floor because I couldn't walk back to the bed. That lasted for, I don't know, I must have been out half a second, but it was enough to know that I passed out, fell to the floor, and was fine, but walked to the bed. And then I was like trying to get out of the bed again, and like wobbled back, fell over, passed out again. And then I was like, I laid there. I was like, I'm just going to try to go to bed. And then I went to sleep for 6 hours. Brutalism at its finest. That was kind of what I was dealing with this coming into this weekend before I shot this podcast, in which I was planning on shooting this podcast probably Saturday morning. It's now late into Sunday evening, so all this editing and stuff will go on this evening, but I feel really good right now. I was able to hold down calories, and I'm super healthy again. I feel like strong again. And it truly was a 24-hour flu, like the doctor told me it was going to be. She basically went into detail. She's like, yeah, the flu's been really rough this year. It's been hitting people harder this year because of all the other stuff that's been going on. So the virus has been stronger. And I was like, I don't disagree with that. It's the worst I've ever felt it. And so I guess I don't need a flu shot this year since I've gotten it already, but I think next year I'll be opting in for that flu shot that I get for free if I wanted it. So I'm certainly going to probably take it. A lot of people have been asking me about the COVID shot. I think there's 2 companies. There's possibly a third one coming up. I think Johnson & Johnson is coming by with a third one where it's only 1 shot. I think Pfizer is 2 shots. I think Moderna is 2 shots as well. One of the doctors was arguing with me the other day. It's not Moderna, it's Madeira, or whatever he called it. But I don't think that's right. I think it's Moderna. I think that's the company. I should Google it to fact check myself, but I don't think it's Madeira. That doesn't even sound right to me. From what I understand, Moderna is a Spanish company. I could be wrong. That means modern? Moderna? I don't know. Don't listen to me. I'm still trying to get some of my brain cells back after the flu bug crushed me. So I could be wrong. Maybe it's Madeira. But regardless of what it is, Moderna, Madeira, along with Pfizer, and then there's Johnson & Johnson. I'm looking at them. I think at some point I'm going to have to get one because I have to fly. So, whatever your stance is on that, sometimes we're going to be in a position where it's like, I don't know, we're kind of walking on a tightrope here. I've taken a lot of different weird stuff being in the military. I think I've taken something called the anthrax shot, and the anthrax shot I took that, and it was like, I think if I remember correctly, it was like 3 or 4 different shots along with a yearly booster. So, and that shot was so extreme that it would harden your tricep, and you literally had to slap it and like loosen it up with your hand. It was crazy. I'm like, this can't be good for you. So if I survived the anthrax shot, I'm not extremely worried about a COVID shot or COVID booster if it helps or if it makes people feel comfortable. And it, I don't know. Can you make something safe after busting out something in 9 months when it takes decades to perfect it? Probably not. But I always refer back to like how much crap was shoved down my system when I was, working for the government. Who knows? Maybe it'll have a counterbalance and help me out and be even better. So I'm not sure. I guess I'm saying all that to say I'm kind of balancing the three. We'll see which one sort of takes the popular route or the one that people trust the most. I think all three of them are probably trustworthy companies, given the fact that you can't really legally hold any of these bound. I don't know how much can you trust them anyway, but I don't trust the government. I don't trust most things. So what difference does it make? Just give me the shot if it works. Come on. What do I care? We're all going to die someday anyway, right? I almost died on my bathroom floor in my hotel, puking on myself. So life could be worse, right? I'm here breathing, and that's wonderful. What was I talking about? What's this podcast about? Come on, Jake, get it together. It's podcast number 3. We're talking about canceling Facebook. This one's going to be fun. I almost did a video about this months ago before I even considered podcasting. I was like, nah, this ain't video worthy because there's too much editing, but podcasting would help me be real with this, and I can explain it to a fine detail as to why and what led up to this process of me canceling my Facebook account. First of all, let me go into the beginning of it. Facebook was never my prime source of like internet material, so to speak. When I started my my fitness company, it was originally Relentless Training Company, and then with Relentless Training Company, it sort of morphed into what it is today. But before that, I had a business Facebook account. I never had a personal Facebook account. Never wanted one, never saw the need for it. It was like, it's only going to be business. I'm keeping myself off of it. And I pretty much stayed true to that for the first couple of years I was on Facebook. I think my original Facebook account was 2013, and that was to push my original workout videos that I did on a completely different channel. And they weren't workout videos. It was just like fitness tips and little stuff. They were crap, basically. And it was just a way to kind of push the name. Facebook in and of itself really wasn't that important to me. And then eventually I started to do live workouts. I started to do multiple workouts and just kind of workout videos in general. This was actually, I'm sorry, let me back up. It was before the live workouts. I just started to do like post-production workouts where I would post them on YouTube. And I thought, well, I need to find a way to really try to build this better. And, someone started telling me about the Facebook communities and, it's a better way to market and network. And, you can certainly start to network your videos better through Facebook than just using YouTube all the time. So I took advantage of it and I started to push it through my Facebook business page, and it wasn't enough. And I thought, well, if I go on Facebook personally, I can start to push this to all my friends and family and, kind of old schoolmates. So I finally did. And I don't remember the year I got on there. I want to say it's probably 2015. But it was probably, I've been on Facebook, I think I was on Facebook close to 5 years. It was almost the duration of time that I started my new YouTube channel, which was just specific workout videos when it first started. And that's the YouTube channel you'll find this podcast on, and you'll find all the workouts on. That's Relentless Muscle. When I started that, I started a private Facebook page to help promote those videos. And that was the main premise of that. And it kind of morphed into this whole, hey, you get to meet new people, you get to meet your old friends, you get to see old classmates, you get to see their pictures. And it was quite fun in the beginning. I got to see old coaches that I had a lot of respect for. I don't know if anybody knew me in the past, or seen past videos, but I talked about my wrestling coach. So if you know Coach Morgs, Coach Morgs through me possibly, then it was probably through Facebook where I was able to help promote that. And there was some good things to it. That's my point. And, that was one of the things that kind of kept me on the platform because of my coach or because of some old classmates that I used to get along with. And then I don't know, 2019 was the political stuff in 2016 was annoying, but I got past it. I just blocked people who decided that every other 5 minutes they had to post something about their favorite president or which president is better. Quite frankly, don't ask me which side I'm on because I don't care what you think. I'll vote one way or I'll vote the other way. I've voted both ways. I've not voted both ways. There have been years I've not voted at all, or I just did a write-in and I voted for freaking Bugs Bunny because, quite frankly, there have been candidates that it's like, here's 2 bowls of crap. Which one doesn't smell as bad? That's the one you vote for. And I got sick of doing that. And to me, it's like I'm not standing in line for an hour to vote for a candidate I really don't want to vote for, and I'm just doing it to vote against another candidate. Never made sense to me. So I'm certainly not going to dive into one side because, quite frankly, neither of those sides care about me. And they don't care about you either. There's a newsflash for you. Now, I understand that one side is going to have certain views that you have, and other side is going to have certain views, and there's going to be opposing views. But ultimately, aside from those opposing views, I think ultimately both sides of people in general, in the median of our culture, and we're talking to U.S. culture, the median of our culture all want the same thing. We want freedoms, we want health care, we want education, and we don't want to get crushed financially to have those things. I want those things. Now, unless you're part of the mega rich where you're sitting on your high horse in your elite status and you have, $2 billion in your bank account plus, you probably aren't thinking about those things. So, and guess what? Guess who's kind of the leader of those of countries are usually people, these are decision makers, are usually people who have these type of numbers. Do you think they truly care about your bills, your finances, your student debt, all these things in our country that are crushing the working class, the bedrock of our country, the bedrock? It's crushing us. And nobody's really, people will talk about it. Politicians will sometimes, allude to it to say that that's going to happen. But you know what? When someone truly is meaningful and pushes that agenda, the major machine of both Democrat and Republican, and to me, I don't care what you say, it's the same bird, 2 different wings. Democrat and Republican, same bird, 2 different wings. Do they truly care about your student debt? Do they truly care about your financial debt? Do they truly care about your minimum wage? No. They care about power. And when some politician who's not a politician, when somebody comes from the outside and wants to be a radical and change that debt or change or sound radical and say college should be free or there should be new benefits of relieving that debt where they're not paying as much, that politician gets pushed way out. I've seen that. I've seen it time and again, and it's nauseating to me because, quite frankly, one of the biggest problems of our country is that people can't get out of debt. And we're not talking about people who don't know how to manage debt. We're not talking about people who don't know how to make money. They're making money, but most of that money is going back to paying off the big machine being college debt. Guess what? College debt usually is a federal debt as well. So the government gets their cut, and of course the big corporations or these schools, they're businesses, and they're getting hand over fist. They're making money. I don't care what they say. And if they're not making money, they're not managing their money. They're paying too much on nonsense. And quite frankly, if a college goes out of business these days, I want to know the idiot that was in charge, because they're ridiculous charges. With books, with tuition, with in-state or out-of-state tuition, it's all ridiculous. Whether it's a state school or private school, down the board, students have to pay ridiculous amounts of money. And what's that have to do with Facebook? These are all my opinions I'm just spewing out that kind of have been sort of, they've been churning through the Facebook sort of machine of all the politics. And that's what I didn't understand. Is you're either red or you're blue. That's what you are in our country. You're red or you're blue. And if you're not red or you're not blue, I suppose you're not a true American. Now, I served my country. I was in the military. I served for 6 years. Total 8 years. 2 of them were inactive. That's just kind of the way things were for me. I was in stop loss for 2 years. So it was 2 years that I wasn't supposed to be active that after 9/11 made me more active because you were in what's called stop loss. The loss of, stopping the loss of any troops. Depending on your career field, I had a career field that was in high demand. So I stayed in for a couple more years. But that's fine. I was proud to serve and proud to be there. But apparently these days, if I don't vote for Republican or Democrat, I'm not a true American. If I don't vote, that's not an expression. That means, well, if you didn't vote, then you don't have a voice. Well, maybe not voting was my voice because the two sides are absolutely ridiculous. These are all my opinions, but the whole point is I got so sick and tired of seeing Facebook leaning one way or the other. My friends going polarizing red or polarizing blue. And you're an idiot if you don't believe me on this side. You're an uneducated fool if you don't believe me on that side. I'm going to virtue signal over here and talk about my moral excellence over here. And if you're down the middle, you're not on either side. You're the enemy. You're the problem. And that's the way the opinions have become. And they're not opinions that are open to any discussion. Because, on Facebook, I would try to pose a question on one side or the other. And I got attacked as being a liberal or a Trump supporter. Either way, people think of me as either a racist or a far leftist. Just if you disagree with them. I am neither, actually. I'm not a far right. I'm not a far left. I'm center stage right down the board. Meaning the gray area, which I believe most people live in. The gray area. I'll be willing to listen to either side, as long as it makes sense and it's not too far to the extreme on either direction. If you think that canceling in the Marxist mindset, canceling a culture, this culture cancel nonsense is kind of one of the things that sort of leaned me more towards saying I don't want to be a part of this anymore, talking about Facebook. But the moment you disagree with somebody or the moment you're not taking a stand for their side or their cause, we're going to cancel you. That's dangerous. That's dangerous in a country that I live in that used to pride itself on the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, the freedom to be able to debate back and forth between another party that disagrees with me, but we can do it cordially. We can do it with education. We can do it like adults and not be offended. We can even try to open the minds and hearts of either side. That posing questions back and forth is a healthy way to handle something. The moment we look at something and say, I disagree with that, and I want to cancel it so it no longer exists, we are creating a culture, a world where we're eventually going to be losing our freedoms and we're going to be controlled by the government that we defend, the party that we so richly try to get in bed with for whatever reason. Let me ask a question about anybody who is pro one way or the other. Whether you're so far pro-Trump that you drink everything he says, because if you are that person where no matter what he says, it's amazing. I have a problem with that because we can certainly dissect some things he said that anybody in their right mind can say, well, he should have not said that. Or if you're so far left that no matter what happens and what the far left does, it is for the nobler cause. And I question that as well because I've seen some businesses and some of my favorite restaurants have been destroyed in Chicago because of this nonsense mindset. And it's not, you're not protesting if you're looting these businesses, these small businesses that have fought hard and paid a lot of taxes to be in those neighborhoods so that they can provide a business for the people that are there. It's laughable. No, it's not laughable. It's shameful. That's a better word. Got the kombucha back. There we go. I'm sorry. I didn't have it last time. I've got the going old school. Got the Kavita ginger. It's my favorite one. Oh, I'm gonna piss a lot of people off today. I can't apologize. This podcast is simply for what I'm doing now. It's you don't have a voice on Facebook anymore. I tried that. I got attacked too much, and it was the attacks weren't logical. It was almost like my opinion's stronger than your opinion, so we're gonna leave it alone, or we're just not gonna talk ever again. And I'm getting too quickly. I'm getting into the political side of Facebook, but that's probably because that was the major tipping point for me to say, that's it. I'm so done with this platform, because it's making me upset with people that I love. It's making me upset with friends, perhaps even family that I used to have respect for, and now they're like jumping on one side or the other, and everything they post is nothing but political, and it's things that I didn't want to see. And when it's face to face, a lot of people are completely different to you. And I think this is why. When you get on social media, you gain this keyboard courage, I like to call it. You're typing away, and somebody says something that just infuriates you, and you're like, okay, I'm going to let them have it. I'm going to look at I'm right.com, and I'm going to give them all these facts from what I found on the internet, and I'm going to spew all this stuff at them on my response. And then what happens is we stand there, we watch it, we desperately look at it, waiting for likes, people to support us, and we get this shot of dopamine from these posts that we put up there for everybody to read. Brief statements that are often attacking others, usually people we probably were friends with or had respect for, and now we're just spewing hate back at them. And it's almost like who can spew more of their facts over the other person in a daggering way to make the other person just I don't know, embarrassed or mortified, ashamed, put down, rejected. Like, we want to demoralize our opponent. Like, that's kind of the goal here, to make yourself look good. And here's the thing about that is 9 times out of 10, you're not going to change the other person's mind. All right. We can agree to disagree. That's one thing you can say, or it's one of those things where you can just say, hey, we disagree, but let's keep talking about this. Maybe your side brings more knowledge to the platform than I realize, and I want to learn more. But guess what? Your opponent is not going to be more open to you if you're not open to them first, him or her. I don't care who it is. They're not going to be more open. And I shouldn't have said it that way, opponent, because that's the trigger. That's that changeover mindset that still I'm trying to get rid of that, because these are my friends, my family members, people I went to school with, people I used to really get along with. And now it's like the right or wrong. And I felt like I was against everybody because I didn't agree with 90% that was posted. So I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I'm just the rebel, but I don't think that's the case. I think there's more people who probably think down the middle, and they're just tired of dealing with it. They don't feel like they need to voice it on Facebook, because that's just nothing but a melting pot of hatred. I think people just go online, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, and they spew hate, and they yell at everybody because that makes them feel better. They get that keyboard courage and they attack people. And they're like, I'll make this person look bad. Boom. And here's another hateful hit that I'll get tons of likes for. And it's that adrenaline shot of like dopamine that makes them feel good for a short period of time. And that's the problem with social media. It is a kind of going back to the gun thing. It's truly it's a desperate example, but I think there's some truth to it. In the wrong hands, it's dangerous. I don't believe that everybody should be armed up. Just like I don't believe everybody is mature enough to be on social media, kind of, flailing around their words. Just like I don't want somebody with a gun flailing around a gun. I've been trained on weapons. I've shot many different kinds of guns. Rifles, pistols, grenade launchers, you name it. If it's a military weapon, I've probably had my hands on it once. But I was trained on it. As long as my mental state of mind stays true, I trust somebody like myself. And the reason why I address that is because we can all change as people. We can all change. And if something happens where mentally I start having a breakdown, I hope somebody comes to me, one of my friends or family members, and say, Jake, I got to take your guns. You're not right. I want somebody to do that. That's the responsible thing to do. If I'm no longer trusted with that type of responsibility, I shouldn't have them in my hands. The same is true about social media. I'm sure it's a tool that meant well. It's a tool that has some importance, some benefit, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, all those things. They have benefits. I use YouTube as a platform. I love YouTube. There's some things about YouTube I always bash, but for the most part, obviously, this has been my longest sustaining social media platform that I've ever used. Quite frankly, because doing video is one of my things. I love videos, and I love shooting video. I love watching video, and now I'm doing podcasts with video. If you want to watch video, you have to watch it on YouTube. If you're listening to it, thanks for listening. I don't know. It's my way of talking to everybody, I guess. I might get dry quickly today just because I still think I'm very dehydrated. I opted of having like a cup of Pedialyte next to me. I probably should have done that. But whatever, I got some kombucha. So kombucha helps my soul. I don't even know what that means. It's the polarizing effects. Kind of going back to Facebook. It's the polarizing effects that Facebook had on my mental capacity of dealing with it. I don't think I had the temperament to deal with the nonsense anymore. It was month after month. It was post after post. It was election after election, and I just had enough. And then when COVID happened, suddenly everybody and their stupid younger brother became like medical experts. And everybody was telling me how COVID was this and COVID was that. And this is this and science is that. And I'm thinking, didn't we just discover this virus? Like, nobody really knows anything about COVID. And I was kind of right about that, considering even I had COVID and didn't know it at the time. And we didn't know what effects COVID had, so maybe most of us, including myself, should have just kept our mouths shut. We didn't. We wanted to typing away on our keyboard of courage and telling everybody in the world how smart we are in regards to COVID and why COVID should be treated this way and we should do that. We should shut down the world. Fine. If that was the original answer, I mean, I don't know what the right answer was with COVID, and I don't think anybody can sit on their high horse and say they have the right answer. And if it's now, if you're saying it now, well, hindsight's 20/20. We can all be geniuses if we look back on it and make decisions. But at the time, everybody had a better answer, and when we look back on it, we can, if we're being honest with ourselves, we all messed up with COVID. We all messed up with what we thought we knew about this virus, myself included. The thing about, I think, the virus itself that put me in the wind of caution was how much it was pushed and the fear mongering that seemed to be going on with it. And my big question was why? Like, what was going on with this? Like, we should all stay home. We're all going to die. Too many people are going to die. Millions of people are going to die. And it just didn't make sense to me. And it's like you want to listen. You want to make sure you want to tell yourself that it's real. You want to tell yourself that you believe it. So you abide by the rules, which I did. And you follow along the lines of those rules to listen to this fear mongering that continues to go on to this day. They continue to focus on the COVID deaths. Why? Why are we focusing on the deaths? We certainly didn't reach the numbers, thank God, that they tried to say we were going to reach in a certain period of time. Within the first year, you're going to see 2 million deaths. Well, luckily, we didn't even see a fraction of that. Now, there have been deaths involved with COVID. I've been watching it pretty closely. I talk to just about every doctor that I go see. I get their opinion on it. I see what they think. A lot of them have contact with some of the science that goes along, even with making the vaccinations. Some of them have a better connection than others. So it was good to hear opinions all down the board. And I felt like it's educated me to some degree to get everybody's opinion that I knew, at least people who were directly related or even indirectly related to finding a vaccination or just the virus in general, and just dealing with autoimmune diseases in general. Whether they were MDs, whether they were chiropractic, where you're dealing with that side of it. Believe it or not, that has a lot to do with your autoimmune system as well. Whether they were podiatrists, orthopedic surgeons, all the way down the board, and even neurologists to some degree. It was good to get opinions from that melting pot of people. Most of the opinions with that were this. It was a lot of them to this day continue to say pretty much the same things, in regards to that. Is COVID was something that we didn't know what it was, so the initial shutdown made a lot of sense. And, we didn't know how fast it would spread, so wearing the masks, if it slowed down the spread even a little bit, it made sense. The more they've learned about COVID and the more they learn about this virus, they're starting to discover that while the masks can slow the spread down, they don't know to what degree. And then there's also new studies that say, the masks in general aren't really slowing the spread, and it can lead to other autoimmune issues as well. Now, I don't want to get into that because that's not my forte, so I'm not going to pretend I know what I'm talking about when it comes to that part or that science involved with the mask or not. My point is I wear a mask all the time. So do I like it? No, that's life. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of all the rules. I certainly don't like the way government pushes how to handle COVID, because I think it's a little bit dumb. Certainly hypocritical in the government side, and I'll get to that. But for the most part, I'm a huge rule follower when it comes to following, all the little intricacies of what COVID, fighting off COVID and defending yourself from COVID and other people, keeping them safe. I try to avoid breaking any of those rules for a lot of reasons. First of all, if I get called out by somebody, if I'm breaking a rule, my response to them is not going to be nice. So I'm trying to be nice. The best way for me to be nice is just to follow the rules, so I'm not cherry picked by somebody who suddenly gets real courage and comes up to somebody like me. It's a little bit different than keyboard courage. I'd caution you, though, just my opinion, but if you're afraid of COVID, you probably shouldn't have the courage to go up to somebody who's a rebel and tell them what to do. I know that wearing the mask and certain rules and following 6 feet, it gives people this power to sort of impress on others, to shame them, I suppose, and make them look bad or feel bad. Maybe stand on their ivory tower and sort of do this virtue signaling thing that we've been doing in this country. But if you're that person, you probably don't have what it takes to stand up against yourself against somebody who's truly a rebel and really doesn't care about those rules. So just be careful. If you're worried about safety, that's my suggestion to you. I'm purposely following the rules so I don't become that guy and literally grab somebody by the larynx and rip it out. Kidding, sort of. I just don't like anybody telling me what to do, whether it's the government or whether it's, Billy Bob Karen down the street who thinks she has all the answers because she read it on Facebook the other day and her friend Brenda told her it was true, so it must be true. So I'm going to just go around and tell everybody what to do. No, that's not going to work for me. We like to purge, right? That was another thing in Facebook with, we were bragging. I would see posts with people bragging about how many they deleted from their friend's account. It's like, I did another purge, got rid of all the people that basically didn't agree with me. All the people that I realize are morons because they don't take the same stance as me. That's dangerous, though, isn't it? Don't you want people that sort of impress a different side, sort of give you a different thought? If you just associate with everybody who thinks like you, then it's groupthink. And go ahead and look up groupthink. Groupthink is basically, because you can't think for yourself, groupthink becomes very influential. And before you realize it, you're all thinking the same way. You all think you're geniuses. And in reality, you guys are the morons because you're only looking at one side. I want friends that believe both sides. I want friends on both aisles. I want friends that kind of impress one side over the other, but are willing to listen. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want a friend who's so arrogant to think that they're always right. I don't want to handle somebody like that because that person is bad energy. If you're far right or you're far left, you're probably negative, and I don't want anything to do with you because there's enough negativity going on in this country with our government, with COVID and other issues, even with autoimmune in general, that your negativity is absolutely pointless. Like, I will cancel that in my life, no problem. I don't want negative people in my life. We can all be in their point where we're on our downturn, where it's just a bad day or a bad week. But if somebody is constantly just supposedly fighting the cause and always upset about something, that tears me down. I don't need that. I got too much going on in my life to be positive about. There's too many good things in this world to be positive about. I like the West Coast and the beaches in the West Coast and enjoying the sun. I like the East Coast and the beaches there and the palm trees. Chicago's growing on me again. Maybe not the city anymore, but I saw the snow the other day, and it's snowing out tonight. It's cool. It's peaceful. There's something about enjoying the little things in life that I don't have to worry whether or not, Billy Bob, I don't know, Kabuba got in the Senate the other day. Who cares? Is Billy Bob going to vote where he helps out my life? I doubt it. And if you look at any politician, it's not one politician. It's the machine. It's the big machine that basically is making problems. There's bad ones one way or the other. There might be good ones on a lower end of politics, like maybe your state representative might be good. Maybe your state senator maybe your state senator might be good. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. But chances are the higher they grow and the closer you get to the top, the more they've had to basically give in to the other side and the more corrupt they probably are. And I know that's a negative way of looking at it. But my point is, if you're putting confidence in the big machine, you're always going to be mad at somebody or something. And then suddenly, if somebody's not taking your side, they're not red, they're not blue, and I hate them, and I purge you, well, your life is going to be miserable. And that's one of the things I saw on Facebook, is that both sides were just purging each other and pretty proud of getting rid of people. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're proud of purging people, why don't you just purge yourself? Because clearly this platform isn't for you. And then I realized I should be talking to the mirror, because clearly this platform isn't for me. That was what was going on with Facebook, is that people would splatter all their political garbage on there. And if you're not on their side, they would eventually purge you. It's canceling one another. Oh, I haven't talked to my family for years because they voted for this person or they voted that way. I don't talk to them. I'm proud of that. If you're proud of getting rid of your relationships over a politician who doesn't know your name, doesn't care about you, has never sent you a check and said thank you for your vote, hasn't been there when times were bad, hasn't been there to lift you up when you were sick, wasn't there to basically coddle you when you were down and depressed. If you're giving up relationships like that for some dim-witted politician who is basically just there for power and to get your vote to gain more power, and that's the side you're taking, maybe you're the one who should be looking at to be getting purged. That's just my opinion, but I got tired of seeing all that stuff. It's not the society I grew up in. I feel bad for the kids who are growing up in this society where they have to be careful about every little thing they say. You have to address things. Well, but, I don't believe this, but this is just what we, and then at every point, we have to basically address the fact that, okay, this is what this person said. I don't want to be taken out of context. I'm not a racist, but, no matter what we say, we have to be worried about everybody coining us some way and encapsulating us in one dimension, which nobody in this society is one dimension. We have all different nuances we've pulled from in our life that have developed us to become who we are. We're not one way or the other. We're not red or we're not blue. We are mostly gray. We are mostly humans that have pulled from our society, that have pulled from our experiences, have pulled from our education, pulled from our upbringing, and we have created, hopefully, a decent human being willing to live life, pay taxes, and be good to the rest of the citizens. And somewhere down the road, suddenly, red and white became the major religions in this country. You're either red or you're blue. Did I say white? Red or blue are the two in there. See, I don't even know. Obviously, I could care less which side they are. But either way, that's the point. You're one side or the other. You have to pick a side. And if you don't pick a side, I guess you're not an American anymore. And that's interesting to me because no one seemed to care which side I voted on when I was over in the Middle East with a gun. Nobody seemed to care when I was being sworn in and I wore a uniform and people were coming up to me and saying, thank you for your service. Nobody looks at those people in the military in uniform as red or white. They look at them as people willing to serve for the freedoms that we have in this country. Now, I know I'm going on my soapbox to be preachy about all this, but sometimes I think we forget both red and white. When it comes together, when 9/11 happened, none of that mattered. It was, hey, there's people in uniform assuring we still have this country intact. And it's a blessing from God, too, that we still have this country intact. But I got to tell you, I don't know anymore. If we're willing to give up real relationships just so we can prove our point and show everybody else in the world how vicious we can be if people don't take our side, I'm starting to wonder what we've become as a society. So as a result, I canceled Facebook. This is back in June. I lived through COVID a little bit with the Facebook thing. I gave a few opinions about Facebook and how I thought there was fear-mongering. I even called the media and social media, I called them terrorists. And I still, to this day, believe some of the best actions of terrorism, it's not necessarily done through bombs and physical demolition. I think some of the best acts of terrorism can be through media and social media. We can terrorize societies based on things that the damage that we can do online these days. It's certainly not worth losing good family members over and friends and relationships. And if you have during COVID, if you have during elections, because of your choice, I don't know, shame on you. If we're going to shame people, shame on you for giving up a relationship and turning your back on a relationship over a disagreement when you could have just worked it out. We're so quick to turn our back on people. And if you ever had somebody, and I would argue that maybe these people have never had anybody turn their back on them, or they have and they haven't gotten over it. Well, first of all, living life in that demoralized state of constantly having regret or constantly having despair or constantly having hatred towards somebody is no way to live. People are going to turn their back on you. That's life. I've had numerous people turn their back on me. The more people that have turned their back on me, the less likely I am to do it to the people that stayed with me. You catch what I said? The more times people turn their back on me, the less likely I am to turn my back on those who are still with me. Why? Because it goes to show you how valuable these people are in my life. As I just see the Buccaneers score a touchdown. So it's now 9-6. If they get the extra point, it's 10-6. Buccaneers and Saints. I'm sorry, I have the game going on. Let's make it light occasionally because I know I'm going to get on my soapbox a lot. This is probably going to be a longer podcast than I expected, but I'm a big Tom Brady fan. I respect the man. Yeah, obviously I have an affection towards any Florida team that's out there, and Tom Brady just amazes me. Drew Brees does as well. I'm a big Drew Brees fan. It looks like Drew Brees just threw a pick. So they're both phenomenal quarterbacks, but Tom Brady is just, I know a lot of people hate him. Hate him or love him, he's a champion. He's got 6, maybe 7 this year. I just don't believe in killing relationships that easily, especially when there's been people who are so quickly to kill the relationship between me and them, So, yeah, I hold exception to people who are willing to walk away for such dumb things and be so angry over something so trivial. I think it's trivial. This is not, a lot's going on in our country, but let's look at the big picture of things. We've had major things in history go on, and life still goes on. Families still go on. Tragedies in families still go on. These politicians aren't going to be there during those things. You need good people in your life to be there for you. And politics are not going to matter when it comes to that. It goes down to the person who's going to be by your side. When we were in the military, it never mattered what side they leaned on, what their religion was, what their color was. It didn't matter. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, none of that was even considered. What we saw a uniform. We saw a uniform, a name, and a rank. That was it. That was kind of what we decided on. And then how did that person lead? How did that person follow? How did that person, display themselves in their uniform? Were they sharp or were they a duffel bag? That's pretty much how we judged the troop next to us. And that's how we trusted them. We knew whether or not they took their job seriously, whether or not they were going to be by our side when something bad happened. We knew whether or not when we were in the suck, as we called it, that they were going to be there right along with us, grinding along and not turn their back on us. We never had to worry about that. So it's interesting in society that these days family members and friends will quickly turn their backs on each other over Facebook posts and disagreements over politics. To me, that is shameful. I don't care if you were right or wrong. It's not about being right or wrong anymore. It's about who can be more vicious, who can be more pointed, who can get more likes, more shares, more followers. It all comes down to the dopamine hit that we get from social media and the rush that we get from building ourselves upon negativity regarding social media. I don't know. Maybe it's time to stop that. I'm not going to be off all social media forever. Obviously, I'm still on YouTube. I did recently delete Instagram. I saw this a few months ago. I saw this documentary about social media. It was called The Social Dilemma. If you haven't seen it, I guess I'm not really promoting it for any reason, but it is on Netflix, and I did watch it, and it was unbelievable. An unbelievable eye-opener. That night, I deleted my Instagram account. Just didn't see a reason for it. It wasn't building business for me. It wasn't doing what I originally intended it to do. It was just another dopamine hit. No need for it. So I deleted it. I didn't want to be a slave to my phone. I didn't want it to attach me. And sure enough, it's been great to be off of Instagram too. So now all I have is Facebook. And, with Facebook, it's a little bit different because I treat it more like business because it's been business ever since I started Facebook. I'm sorry. Strike that. Did I say? I'm talking about canceling Facebook. YouTube is where it's at for me, not Facebook. Like I said, still getting my brain cells back from all the flu that I spewed all my brains out. My brains are flushed down the commode. The Komodo dragon. Oh, that's cool. That's my mic. Do my P's and T's pop anymore? I sure hope not. I'm trying to work on that. I finally got one of those pop screens. My first 2 podcasts, I was hearing that every time I said a P, it popped, and it made me cringe. It would make me so upset. So I hope it's not doing that. I'm hoping this pop screen was worth the $8 I spent for it. Someone's like, "You moron! You paid $8 for that? It doesn't even work, idiot." It's all in good fun, guys, but in reality, I don't miss Facebook. To kind of conclude everything about the whole Facebook experience, life has been better for me. I'm able to read again. I started reading after I got rid of Facebook. I wasn't reading at all because I was too busy reading the posts on Facebook. And you know what the problem was? It would make me so angry. And I kept reading it. It's like our bodies, our brains are designed to enjoy this adrenaline rush of anger, and it's pointless energy burned. So I didn't read because I was too busy reading the ridiculous posts on Facebook that made me angry. I never focused on the good stuff anymore. I wasn't focusing on friends and the pictures. I didn't see those anymore. It's like Facebook knew to give me all the negative stuff. And when I got off Facebook, I started reading books again. I literally, it just felt better. It felt better to have that insight. I went back to some of my old books. I started studying Arabic again. It's going to take some time to bring it back, but hey, I'm going to start studying Spanish again this year. So it'll be cool. I'll be listening to Arabic and Spanish. I'll be reading again. It helps me with my brain to get back on track where I feel like I used to be years ago. And somehow the social media virus, let's call it a virus. I mean, if we have a pandemic out there, it's probably social media. That social media virus of Facebook was literally eating my brain. It was taking away the stance that I used to take. This center stage of kind of being optimistic but open-minded to the fact that I'm willing to hear everybody's argument and then go back and forth. I love debating, but you cannot debate a fool. You can't debate somebody who's not going to hear you out. You can't debate somebody who's not going to listen to you and take your side in and try to be, just as respectful to you as you've been to them. And when you start making it personal, when suddenly somebody disagrees with me, they're going to call me a name or they're going to go drop below the belt and make it personal. That's not a debate anymore. That's just a childlike argument. And to me, that's all Facebook is a bunch of stomping and clamoring and spewing insults back and forth. And who can do it better with the most likes? Facebook, you're canceled in my life. And that's all I've got to say about Facebook. If you're still on Facebook, that's fine. I hope you take some of this in. I hope some of it makes sense. I'm not trying to belittle anybody on Facebook. I would get back on if we took the politics off. I'd get back on if it became funny and fun again. We used to joke back and forth and we can have decent banter. It was never about race. It was never about religion or politics. Now that's all it's about. It ruins the very networking I was hoping to build from Facebook. What Facebook did is it polarized. It didn't network at all. It polarized. It forced you to take a side. And I found myself standing in the middle looking around and like, which side do I take? I didn't know which side to take. So I quit. Bye. Done with it. Over. Facebook. 10-6. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Boom. I wouldn't be disappointed if Drew Brees pulls it off either, though. I like the Saints as well. It's going to be a good playoff. Yeah, we got some great quarterbacks still in the game. You got Drew Brees. You got, you got my boy Tom Brady. You still got Mahomes. Hopefully he recovers from his concussion. And, some would still argue that Aaron Rodgers is a good quarterback. So there you go. Yep. I go out of my way not to give Green Bay too many compliments. Guys, that's all I got to say about that on the Facebook thing. If you got any questions, you know the deal. You can leave it in the YouTube comment section. You can also, I think I'm on Twitter. Twitter's never really been my thing. I don't know how to twat. Is that what you call it? Twatting, tweeting, whatever. Who cares? It's stupid. I'm only on there to promote my podcast. I just realized what I said. I don't think it's twatter. I don't think you twat. I think you tweet. Twit. Who cares? It's stupid. Whatever it is, tweet away. I think I'm on there. I think it's on Relentless Life, but I don't know. I opened an account just to promote my first podcast. I tried to promote my second one. I couldn't get on. So I'll probably have to open another one anyway, just to twat or tweet or twit. I'm going to call it twitting. because I'm a twit. Anyway, that's the whole point with Twitter. Obviously, you can't find me on Facebook. I'm not on there. I'm not on Instagram as well. But yeah, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can also, if you want a watch the video version, you can go on YouTube. It's a Relentless Muscle, and it's under the podcast playlist. This is podcast number 3, and I appreciate your attention and listening. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave it on the comment section on YouTube or the Twitter feed, if that's how it works. Maybe someday I'll get in and be able to read your comments. If you want to leave hate, go ahead. I probably won't listen to you, though. If you want to be the keyboard angry guy, I'm probably just going to embarrass you on the next podcast. Chances are I'm never going to personally respond to you because I'm not going to give you that attention. People like you are just angry. You're in some little hole with no job and no life, and I don't really want to be around somebody like you because you're angry. Nothing wrong with being angry about things that are worthwhile being angry about if you're going to turn that anger into something that's going to be productive. But unproductive anger is absolutely just wasted energy, and I have no part in that. Guys, thanks for listening. Always remember, eat healthy, train hard, most especially have fun, light it up. And check out the next podcast next Monday, podcast number 4. It's going to be a blast. I have a guest. His name is Scott Poe. We have some fun. We talk about some good stuff. We talk about fitness. We talk about veganism. We talk about kombucha. He even talks about how to make your own kombucha. We get into a little bit of politics and some controversial things regarding the masks. And then we talk about swimming with sharks. You can't miss it. It's a good one. We're going to have a good time. That's podcast number 4. Guys, take care. I'm out.